When I stand up and I want to go somewhere, I don't think about stepping one foot in front of the other. I just do it. That's a clue for strategy number 5. Let me ask you a question. Have you decided that you want to have the year of your life in 2020? We're in July, we've got 6 months left of this year. Have you decided that that's what you want? And the second question I want to ask you is, do you believe that you can have an amazing year with an amazing result for yourself, for your company, for your business, regardless of what's happening outside? And if you have, what does that look like? Have you got a clear vision and a goal as to what the rest of 2020, if it's going to be a brilliant year, a massive success for you, have you got a vision as to what that looks like? Because if you haven't, and you're flying blind, how are you going to know when you get there? So have that vision, have the goal, and if you've set the goal and it's a significant step away from where you are, which it should be, then you're going to need to change. So have you started to become the person, start to feel like the person who already has the goal? Become him now. Become her now. And it's going to require you to get uncomfortable, because any goal that's worthy of you, that's worthy of your growth, that's worthy of your expansion, that's significantly a step forward in, your greatness, it is going to require you to get uncomfortable, make some tough decisions and face fear. Bulldoze through and get uncomfortable. It's going to require you to do that, because if you don't, and you want to stay safe, then you accept that I'm staying comfortable, I'm staying safe, but staying there means missing out on so much. So a story from my life was when I was 25 years old, and it was 2001. I'd been graduated university 4 years, I had a management degree, and I was working as a claims handler for Aviva. It was my first job out of university, first real job. I lived in my hometown of Hartlepool, so I had to commute 60 minutes every day into Newcastle city centre. And I would meet my boyfriend of 2 years. We would meet for breakfast most mornings. And we were excited because he hadn't long been started in his first big role as part of his law career. And he was in the practice round the corner from my office. And we got really excited about this period of time because, we'd both have money. We would meet for breakfast, we would meet for lunch, we would go out for dinner and drinks, and we just painted this picture of, the life we could see ahead of us, and we were really excited. And then this morning, sitting over coffee, out of absolutely nowhere, he ended it. He ended the relationship and said it's not what he wanted. And I was completely heartbroken, sat there trying to hold back the tears as I watched him stand up and walk his way into the office. And I sat there with my coffee, crying and then gathering myself, crying and then gathering myself, really trying to just gather myself because I had to get myself into work. And I didn't want to walk into work with tears streaming down my face. So I managed on about the 10th time to pull myself together long enough to walk into work, say hello to everybody, pretend like everything was normal, and get through the day. But the minute I opened the door to the office and walked outside, it flooded, and I cried the whole way back to Hartlepool. I cried all that night, cried myself to sleep. Woke up the next day with big puffy eyes, emotionally exhausted and distraught and numb. And I had to get back up and get on that train and go into the office and get on with the day. And I just went through that motion for the next number of days, and I avoided the coffee shops, the bars, the restaurants where we ever went. I avoided those places. I went into the job and then got the train home, and I just continued to do that. And I'd been in that role 4 years and there'd been no progression and there was no real opportunity. And I'd always known that on some level, if I don't do something, then I'll be here another 4, 5, 6 years. And I guess the breakup shone a light on that even more. And I don't know how long passed, but a number of weeks since that time, since we sat with the coffee and he ended things. And a management job came up, but it was in Manchester. Now, if you're from outside of the UK or you're from London, you might think, isn't that just north? It's quite close. Well, it's a 3-hour commute, so it's a completely different city. I never wanted to live in a city. All my university friends either were from London or moved to London. I went back to my hometown because I wanted to be around my loved ones. I didn't want to be in a big city. And this job was in Manchester. So it would involve a relocation to a city where I knew nobody. And do you know what? I didn't even really consider applying. And then I thought, let's just apply because you're probably not going to get it anyway. Apply for the experience. But I applied, and guess what? Not only did they offer me the job, it was an assessment centre and I'd performed the highest out of anybody, like really, really highly. And they wanted me for the job. They really, really wanted me. So I had a decision to make. And I asked everybody. I asked family, friends. They were all supportive. I could tell the ones who didn't really want me to go. Most of them didn't really want me to go. And in the end, I guess deep down I knew I was going to accept it because the fear of regret and the fear of what might have been, that was stronger than the fear of leaving my loved ones, moving to a new city all on my own where I knew nobody. So I accepted the job, and we spent the weekends after that leading up to my relocation. I was with my dad in the car in his Nissan Primera, driving to Manchester, looking at all the different suburbs, trying to decide where I was going to live. And in one of those early trips, he said to me, we were talking about my decision again, and he said to me, look, you've made the decision, you've accepted the job, there's nothing to deliberate over now. It's only looking forward, it's only looking at the positive, and it's focusing on the future. And you know what? It's simple advice, but I kept that, and I think I operate from that place in many different pivotal decisions, and it's good advice. You know, if you've made the decision, it means to cut off. You cut off from any other possibility and you move forward. So we would drive back and forward at weekends and look for somewhere, explore different areas, see where I would like to live. And then a month later, I'm sitting in my Didsbury studio flat with a glass of wine, and I give a little nod to my ex and a big smile on my face. And you know what? Everything happens for the reason. And Mark, the person I'm now married to, I met him in Manchester. So it's lovely the way we can connect the dots looking back, but it doesn't always feel like that in the moment. And you can't predict the future or connect anything looking forward. You can only do that in retrospect. And I learned a lot about fear and decision making through that process. But what is fear? Fear is really just a state of mind. It's just a story that we make up in the future, purely in our imagination, about something that might or might not happen. It's completely made up. And then we feel that emotion of fear, but we make it up. And we could equally, if we can make up a story that makes us fearful and scared and nervous and anxious, we can make up a story that's positive, powerful and exciting. They're both made up stories. They just require us to believe in something. And I learned that there's no real joy or growth without fear, without some level of getting uncomfortable. Because fear goes hand in hand with growth and joy. So if you want joy and you want to grow and you want to expand and explore your greatness and let that out, you can't do that and stay safe. You can't do that and stay comfortable. So that's what you need to think about in relation to your goal. And fear might be wrapped up as procrastination. This is really key. Oftentimes we sit on the fence for a period of time, or we tell ourselves we're getting data, we're getting facts, we're getting opinions, and we're not really making a decision. So we're in this kind of false sense of security, this false safe place between kind of where we're thinking about making a decision, But really, when we're doing that, think about it, we're just going nowhere. And the longer, this is really important, the longer we stay in that false safe place where we think we're trying to decide as we get facts and data so we make the right decision, the longer we stay there, we give doubt the chance to creep in. That voice that asks questions, that says, what if? Yes, there's a time for that to send a message, but we need to get that message quickly and make the decision and go. Because if we stay in that period of false security where we think we're trying to decide, lack of decision making, procrastination, it's just hidden fear. We often don't say to ourselves, I'm really, really scared, I'm fearful. But when we're avoiding a decision or we're taking our time over a decision, that's fear. It's just wrapped up as something else. And if you want to do something and you've got a goal, you've got to decide and go for it quickly, because fear is really a state of mind. Unless there's an actual tiger ready to pounce, it's a state of mind. Yes, it's there to serve you. So what is it there? What's the message? Get the message. Fear is probably telling you to get prepared, to do some practice, to rehearse, and just be ready. It's there to serve you. It's not there to say avoid. It's not there to say avoid a decision or don't go forward. But the longer you don't decide, the more chance you give yourself to talk yourself out of it. And then logically you'll say that was a bad idea in the first place. And it will feel logical and it will feel right. But successful people, one thing they've got in common, they make decisions quickly and they don't change them very often. And if they do change them and change them slowly, they make them quickly and they go for it. So really think about that. You might say, I'm not scared. It's probably not fear you think you're facing. It's probably you saying, I'm making a decision. And in leadership and in business, I was in leadership courses, I was in leadership roles, and we'd often say we need to get better at making decisions. Well, we can point that fact out, but unless we understand the root cause of why we're not making a decision, which is typically fear of something, fear of making the wrong decision, fear of making an unpopular decision, fear of making a decision that we later decide we want to do something different. But while we're not making a decision, we're standing still doing absolutely nothing. Better to make a decision and be a little bit wrong so you can correct. You can't correct if you stand still. So just do it. That's strategy number 5. So 4 takeaways. Fear is a sign that you're on the right track. If you set a goal that's a significant step away from where you are and it's going to deliver you transformational impact in your life, it's going to cause you to grow and experience joy, then you should feel fearful. If you're not feeling fearful, you want to ask yourself, is my goal big enough? Am I going after things that are worthy of me? Number 2, recognize when you're really avoiding making a decision and you're telling yourself you're getting some data and facts and information. Recognize when you're really just procrastinating. It's just hidden fear. Once you've got that data, number 3, once you've got that data, go for it. Decide, go quickly. Be decisive. And as my dad said, you've made that decision. There's no point now going back over the pros and cons once the decision's made. You can look at the new data and the new facts and course correct and pivot, but there's no point looking backwards. And finally, you can, if you want, avoid fear. You can decide to stay very, very comfortable, and but recognize that where you feel comfortable is where you are right now. And if you want to avoid fear and stay comfortable, then your results will stay pretty much where you are right now. You might get incremental gain, but you won't get transformation. And if you want to go through life avoiding fear and playing it as safe as you possibly can, making sure every decision is analysed to death so that you can be guaranteed it's the right one, then your greatness is never going to shine through. And you'll miss out. You will miss out on joy. Remember, joy, growth, fear go hand in hand.